I saw a video on how to beat Jean Jacket and Nope, so I guess we're here now. JoJo stands are a very polarizing group of powers with how much they vary in strength, but most would make light work of us. So with humanity's tools in 2023, how well could we do against JoJo? Well, there are levels of defeating them, I believe. The first tier is filled with stands that a group of people could most likely beat up. The second tier is if those group of people were, I guess, armed. The third is heavy artillery. That's usually meant for warfare. And the tier after that is also required on war level artillery, but we'd also have to find the user if they aren't blatantly doing stuff in front of everybody, most likely because they have range capabilities that make it difficult for us to figure out who's doing it. And the last tier means that this stand is virtually indestructible because while we do have power, like nuclear power, to be able to defeat them, that most likely shouldn't happen, which means that yes, they're undefeatable here. But when I start off strong. So first up is Star Platinum. Let's first address Star Platinum. With ease, Jotaro and Star Platinum could level a 2-story building like it's nothing, you know? In terms of speed, he's capable of light speed combat. We can't do anything in light speed. Nothing. In addition to that, they can even stop time. So even if you do surround Jotaro with a complete arsenal of artillery, he could just flee the scene without you ever noticing. Even if you were to hit Jotaro with a smokescreen too, that are meant to it's supposed to burn your lungs or something like that, not only could he just simply avoid it by stopping time and then walking away, but Star Platinum could actually inhale said smoke without it affecting Jotaro in any way possible. He could also windmill his hands or something, you know, like some really cartoony stuff to get around this. You could poison Jotaro, but that'd require ever getting the chance to. So if Jotaro wanted to be a menace, he probably could. If Jotaro wanted to be an enemy of the state or country, he could do it. And even if he was to be a threat to the entire world, no one could agree to do something as drastic as blowing him up with a bomb of some sorts because of how easily he disappears and the fact that there'd be guaranteed civilians hurt. So is Jotaro unbeatable in the context of our world right now? Yeah, I'd say so. Because we can't subdue or trap him. And if he was in America, for example, they're like, how often are they, oh, let's go blow up Jotaro? Like, that's not gonna happen. The abilities to stop time, move at light speed, and demonstrate superhuman strength are currently beyond our scientific and technological capabilities. That's just the case. So, Jotaro is unbeatable. Now let's give ourselves a chance. Joseph Joestar and his stand Hermit Purple. Now look, Hermit Purple as a getaway option and, you know, information option, you know, it's pretty good. It prevents him from getting popped for a good bit, but Joseph will get tired eventually, especially because he's older. And after that, we can jump him. If you're unfamiliar with the art of jumping, getting jumped means to get your ass beat by multiple people at once. Now, I think Joseph could definitely defeat some of our strongest people out there, but he's only got so much energy to be able to do so. We wear him out for a bit, then all in just by stomping Joseph out, doing nothing. Joseph could most likely take out like, I'd say 50 people. 50 people with ease, like it'd be nothing to him. But if we had like a roster of people, like say that people like that go to Black Friday, like back in like 2014, like the people that would mob all through that and just like really strong about it, it's like, damn, I think a good like 200 of those people in general would just beat out Joseph eventually. But I think that we can actually speed run this entire tier of jumpable people. Oingo and Kanum. Kanum enables Oingo to alter his appearance, height, weight, scent, and presumably his voice at will. Thank you, Jojo Wiki. We could totally jump him easily. Jojo characters are for sure stronger than the average person, but this guy, this is like one of the most jumpable people we have. Anubis. This stand requires a user. With a user, it would definitely require probably firepower to defeat this guy. We do not have swordsmen that are on this tier, but we could eventually defeat this stand. If there's no user, it's just a sword, we are stomping it out. Mariah and her stand Bastet. When a person touches the outlet, they will become shocked and become a magnet that attracts nearby metallic objects. We are going to lose some person in the process. Someone has to be fodder for this. And maybe some people off of just Mariah's combat alone, like she will fold a lot of y'all. but in the end, jumpable. Death 13 and Managed Boy. Look, that stand is non-functional, alright? That baby might take someone down somehow, but like we're punting the baby like across the field, like phew, like it's nothing. Sethin and Alessi will probably get a few people and turn them into infants, but we can for sure beat Alessi up. Like that would not be that hard. Lovers, it doesn't matter if the pain redirects to someone else. People don't really care that much. Even if someone is getting hurt, it's like, we're jumping Steely Dan. Like that's just gonna be happening. Who else? Who else do we got? Boingo and his stand top. Yeah, we're throwing dude like a football. That's it. It's like a child. We're whooping him. It's nothing. Empress could definitely get some people by them just making mistakes and messing up, but it's on someone's arm. Like that. We could totally jump that before it gets to any sort of actual strength. Like it got the doctor on some low-key stuff, but we could totally jump that. And finally, the Darby brothers. We for sure have better poker players and better gamers than them. That's a guarantee. I for sure believe that the world as it is right now has better people than them. After beating them, we will then beat them even further. They will not survive this. Now, their stands are actually strong. They go on into the next tier, and if they really wanted to fight us like that, then they could. We would need a lot of firepower to beat them. But their forte won't match up to the rest of humanity, and if they're just like, damn, I got beat, you're allowed to beat my ass, then we get them. We are up in the next tier. Now, Dark Blue Moon requires water to be as helpful as it is, but even then, even with its potential lightspeed combat by scaling to like lower forms of Star Platinum and all that, it doesn't have the facilities to stop us from unloading a complete arsenal on this stand. Like, it just doesn't. Whole Horse and his stand Emperor would blast through the lot of us. But humanity, we would eventually take him down. That's nothing. I also feel like Judgment would fool a lot of people, but at the same time, normal people can't see stands, which also makes the whole Polnareff and Judgment interaction even more funny because we wouldn't be able to see the damn stand. So in terms of strength, you know, like Judgment's gonna put the hands on us, but we can eventually beat that. The Fool is another stand where we'll know who the user is almost instantly, like, oh hey, what's going on with this dog and all this sand and stuff like that, but with the ability to create sand clones, it'll keep Iggy out of the scope for a long while. But, you know, like maybe with like a heat detector and some really trained people, like we could get Iggy. Like eventually. It'll just take like a lot of people, but not as many people as like the stands we're going to see in the next tier. Tier 3. Now the stands are the ones that you can maybe eventually beat, but it's with steps. And with, I mean steps, I mean like a lot of tools that are very out of reach for the regular person. Strength, the stand will require some explosives from a distance if we want to limit the amount of casualties, but the good thing is that almost nobody has to get hurt because of how big of a target that stand is. Like, it's nothing to just take it out. Wheel of Fortune would be continuously adapting, but again, a combination of roadblocks, it'll go right through, but you know, like an RPG or like maybe 10, like a lot, just large issue, but it's a large target. We will get done with this stand. Now tier 4, this is really rough. This is rough for us. This is like the damn, we probably can't do this. The next ones are in a tier that you'd have to try harder, like the most amount of hard to stop this person. And why is that, you know? Well, most likely because distance, ability, how smart the user is, or all three. Alright? Now for the Sun, it really only worked in the desert for that short time and all that, realistically, because, oh hey, he did the mirrors thing. And it's like, oh wow, how did he do that? I think Arabian Fats could live for a large amount of time without anyone actually figuring out whether or not it's him. The issue is how he's supposed to function when everything else is going down. If he affects any water supply or energy, he gets no help for himself. Like, he'd be putting himself in a jeopardizing situation. But maybe he has like a country for ransom for a long time, right? Like, oh hey, what are we gonna do about this big old sun? I'll put away the sun once you guys do something and something. You know, I don't, whatever the heck he wants really. But he'd end up getting figured out, I think, anyways. Like, say if people have to move, and Arabia Fats also has to move with those people, it's gonna look suspicious. Probably get figured out. This is a very reclusive ability that could work for a while, but high-key wouldn't work that well for his own benefit. It's potentially unbeatable, but realistically, it's probably a time thing. I don't know how smart the user is. Like, the mirror in the desert thing seems clever, but at the same time, you're like, oh man, this is the Joestar team. They're gonna figure this guy out like it's nothing. So it's like, oh man, that probably wasn't that smart. So that's why I'm really banking on the fact that this guy would get found out eventually. Now, Hangman and Jay Guile are a terrible combination that would work too well. He's too fast for anyone. He can maneuver through large crowds without too much of a notice, even though he has a busted ass face. He's just not new to this. He's pretty much just not new to this at all. If he wanted to go to war with the world, he could get eventually figured out and put down, because it's just like, oh, okay, there's a range thing. But if he wants to play back and just be a complete terror, I think we need like Death Note levels of effort to stop him. Like, oh, analyzing. Like, granted, again, like he does move within a specific range, but it would also almost be impossible to figure it out because of how crazy this concept is and how crazy the abilities are. Geb is an extremely strong stand, and in addition to that, this would require us to find out who is doing this. If Endul was being really secretive with it, he'd live for a very long time. But if it was his attack on humanity, oh, like I'm going to destroy the humans or something like that, his radius of attack would be analyzed and figured out, and then eventually we could beat Endul, but he'd get extremely far. Tower of Grey would easily be one of the worst losses ever. This stand will beat an unreasonably large amount of people. We also haven't seen how far this stand can go in terms of range. It says he has an A in range, so I'm not really sure about it, but I do think that you could figure out who the user is. Now, why do I think that? Why do I think that, right? Because he'd be the only person left, which is extremely terrifying. I think that Tower of Grey would clear out like the entire block and we would never even know. That's how terrifying it is. Now, Horus and the stand user Pet Shop. Now, this stand, you know, ice creation and manipulation abilities, but without understanding the concept of stands, you know, it will mistake its powers for some sort of technologically like advanced weaponry, you know, or just maybe people will think like, oh, it's just some sort of natural phenomenon. How did we spawn that huge thing of ice? Like, oh, maybe it dropped from a plane or something like that too, you know. The freezing capacity of Horus could incapacitate many people, entire squads of soldiers and vehicles and nothing, right? We could stealth them out, you know, surveillance would be great. As Pet Shop would just be extremely impossible to detect, you know. In a world that doesn't know stands, trying to figure out Pet Shop as a source too would just, like, this would be impossible. Like, we're looking for a bird that shoots ice. This bird might live forever. It'd be like hunting some sort of invisible assassin, you know, like just striking with ice, which, you know, we could eventually get, but it would be really difficult to work against this. I think that's one thing that we would never get to. I think Pet Shop might just get away and we'll never discover the mystery of, yo, who the heck was spawning all these ice things everywhere? Justice and the stand user Enya, with the ability to control the dead and create illusions through the fog, we'd initially assume that there is some sort of virus outbreak, or probably like, I don't know, paranormal activity. Like, we believe that, I guess, probably. People being controlled by holes in their skin would make us believe that it's some sort of infection, most likely. So I don't even think that we'd get to the whole idea like, oh, hey, stand use, like, it's a whole different concept, you know. Localizing Enya would be challenging too, because she creates a fog that covers like a whole town, you know. Like, how are you supposed to find who this person is? Like, plus it's an old lady. You're not gonna think, oh, hey, this old lady is doing this whole thing. Like, that's not happening, you know. But if we did realize that, oh, hey, there's only this fog only exists within this radius, or probably could use some sort of wind turbine, like massive fans to just blow out the fog and weaken her range and all that. Like, most likely, right? Because it's just gonna be like, oh, huge smoke bubble, like, oh, hey, we're gonna clear this out. But, you know, pinpointing Enya and realizing she's the source of it all, that'd take a lot of time. Probably too much time. Hierophant Green. This stand's most terrifying ability would be the freaking possession of humans thing if it really wanted to do that, and it could just keep on being like, oh, what the heck, who's possessing all these humans, you know? We'd assume that's like, oh, hey, did we actually achieve hypnosis or mind control? What's going on? And also the Emerald Splash, it shoots out energy projectiles. We would not be able to see the result of it. We can't track the remains of, you know, the Emerald Splash because it's undetectable. It doesn't exist within our realm. Like, it's like psychic energy. How would we detect that? The best way to combat Hierophant Green without the knowledge of stands, I don't really think we have anything for that. How would we figure out that it's Kakyoin? What exactly are we supposed to do? But if we do calculate, you know, the biggest thing on stands is their range. And if we're able to figure out that this thing is working within a range that, hey, oh, we satellite track this thing. There's this guy, and this range keeps on moving with the guy. It's probably that guy, you know? That'd be like one of the easier ways to go about it. But yeah. Silver Chariot. The speed of Silver Chariot is terrible for us. It's a huge problem. Traditional firearms and projectiles and all that type of stuff doesn't really work. Any attempts at trapping or restricting Polnareff might result in just a huge slashing us all the way up. So if we could stealth him out, you know, a highly covert team. Oh shoot, let's try to incapacitate Polnareff without him noticing. But you know, he moves at light speed, so even if he didn't notice, he'd still have time to notice and then react, which is pretty unfortunate. But if we recognize that his speed is one thing that he really does have, using like all types of things to disorient him, like, oh, huge flashbangs or something, like loud noises and those unreasonable cars or something like that, just stuff that would really bother him, you know? Or maybe a really big explosion, because he doesn't have as much range as like a Hierophant Green or Horus, something like that. Maybe just a really big explosion. Let's just blow Polnareff up. Maybe that'd work. Next up, we have Magician's Red and his ability to control fire. Sand user Avdol. Magician's Red's ability to melt bullets, you know, and control fire at such an unreasonable intensity means that directly confronting him is impossible. We cannot do that. He will melt right through all of us. The range and intensity of Avdol's flames, we're not going to be able to do any direct stuff. And since he can conjure the flames, I don't really think he needs oxygen to exactly use it, but restricting the oxygen in his vicinity in general, that could do very well. Also using some sort of chemicals or gases that would make working with what he's doing very difficult. Alternatively, we can also use water, but we need like a large amount of water. Like, you know, like the ones where the helicopters bring in with those really big buckets? Yeah, probably like that at the same time that we're trying to get on towards him. But even then, he has enough fire to blast a helicopter, blast us. He moves at light speed. We're probably cooked. Realistically. Oh wait, cooked. Funny. And finally, the world. Stand user, Dio. No Brando, it's just Dio. So remember everything we had said about Star Platinum? I do think that it's easier to beat Dio than it is to beat Jotaro. Low-key, high-key, because of his weakness in the sunlight, you know? So in areas where Jotaro is finding just to, like, places to hide and all that, it works better for him instead of Dio, you know? Because Dio can only move within the night. Like, yeah, we can't stop him from doing what he does, but, you know, he can't do that in the daylight. He tries to do that in daylight. Mink, mink, mink. The sun, bro. Like, it's nothing. But Dio is also Dio, and he's also navigated throughout his entire vampire life fairly well, to the point where he could just remain undiscoverable while also causing majority of the issues in the world and potentially take over with world domination completely, and we wouldn't be able to do anything to stop it. If that's the case, then he joins Jotaro in the unbeatable tier. And I think that's about it. It's also true that, like, yeah, a lot of these stand users do have to eventually sleep, but I don't think that it'd be that hard for them to find a place and just, like, not get caught by us, you know? That's that. But yeah, thank you all for watching. Hopefully, I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, peace out, and Godspeed.